This is the temporary propane setup. Just a single bottle with a regular appliance regulator, 3/8 hose down to a 1/2-inch header, isolation valves and drip legs, 3/8 hose up into the bottom of the generator, goes up the back. Same thing into the heater, the 3/8 hose comes in, comes underneath, and goes to the 3/8 NPT connection point. There's JIC fittings pre-installed on these. Top of the generator, the connection can be clearly seen down the back. And so there's room for the user to connect the propane source, either bringing the propane in across the top of the door and down inside, or coming straight through the wall underneath the two devices. We'll walk outside, view this. So this is the exhaust pipe for the heater. And the user can simply bring penetration of the propane through anywhere on this wall, drilling from the inside to make sure you don't hit anything. It's intended that the propane tanks will sit to the left of the main door, as there will be good access here to check tank levels, and there's always access on this side for the gravel pad and a purge driver. When you first receive the unit, all the power is disabled. To enable the power, you simply need to connect battery source to the inverter. The inverter is shut off, and the bus panel disconnect is also shut off. Right now it's seen in the on position. Shutting it off disables all the power. From a dead start, to re-enable the power, you need to turn on the breaker and close the panel door. It's all low voltage. It doesn't require special protection. It does require a tool for entry. A flat standard screwdriver is all that's needed to open and close the door. The inverter does a self-test, and the fan fires up. That's what you just heard. To enable the power system, simply touch the inverter enable button. Power is enabled, and the lights, motion sensor system will do a self-test. This is normal, and then motion will bring the lights on. The system control panel doesn't need to be changed. Simply press the button on the inverter to enable power once the main breaker is turned on, connecting the battery source. Once power is enabled, it is not necessary to enter the breaker cabinet, which is the 12-volt bus cabinet. The breaker is very large and the inverter is oversized for the application. It's unlikely that that breaker would trip in normal operation. Please close the panel door to avoid unintended entry of tools and objects that might short it out. From the main page, pressing menu simply shows what systems are installed on the Xantrix network. So this is the Freedom Sine Wave 3012 inverter device, simply showing that it's connected on the network. The network is the blue Ethernet wires. You can see the system controller is attached to the inverter. Following the wiring around, it's attached to the generator bottom start. system controller controls when the generator should start and stop. Locally, the hours are displayed. If you're running only on the generator power and no solar whatsoever, the generator is matched closely to the capacity of the charging of this inverter. What that does is allows us in 2 to 3 hours per day to generate the full day's power, and in that mode we do not need to run the generator as many hours. This is the normal status of the generator setup page for the automatic start. You'll notice right now it's automatically off. It has stopped. The previous clip showed it cooling down and it automatically stopped after 2 minutes. Right now there's no trigger turning it on automatically. We'll show triggers momentarily. The generator mode is automatic. Instead of off or manually on, it's in automatic state. There are 2 generator modes. There's a general mode, which we've selected now, and that's operating or standby. Standby really is disabled from a systematic standpoint, where the generator will never turn on. This is a temporary mode where you just want to mute it to not have it run, as opposed to reprogramming its state. This should be in operating mode normally, in an automatic mode. This is the battery charger for the generator set. It is connected to the battery via the cables on the bottom of the generator. There's the terminals. This is an in-light charge indicator showing it's full. The generator does not charge its own batteries. The charger is powered from the main power system, and it maintains the battery in a full state. There is a dedicated battery for the generators to keep the battery charged. This must be a separate battery, separate from the main power batteries. If running in generator only mode with no solar connected, the generator will start up and run in about 1 hour run cycles to charge the battery. When the battery has reached the programmed level, the system controller will tell the generator to shut down. The generator is recirculating the air in the enclosure for cooling. It will heat up. Normally, the generator would only run in the winter when solar is not available, such as during a prolonged snowstorm where the panels are covered in snow and ice. Then the generator might run an hour or so each day. We need the heat, and so the heat is retained in the enclosure. If the enclosure gets too warm, whether the generator is running or not, the cooling fan will pressurize the container. It will turn on based on the switch setting about 100 degrees F. It'll switch off at about 94. So whether it's a hot day in the summer and the container is overheating, or if the generator has created enough heat that we need to press air into the enclosure, the fan will come on. The exhaust is directly above the gen set. The cooling air leaves there. The hottest air has risen up to the top and blows out those vents. Turning the fan on, you can clearly see the louvers open and the air exhausts. Changing the setting of this switch to a lower number calls the fan to run. It has anti-backdraft flaps which automatically open and close. This temperature switch is for cooling the enclosure. So based on the generator's cooling needs, it should be set no higher than 100 to turn on. It can be set lower in order to keep the container cooler in the summer if additional ventilation is required. If simply ventilation is required to vent out any fumes from cleanup or anything you might have done with chemicals, you can simply turn down the setting and the fan switches on. The generator charger follows the battery cabling. Battery cabling comes in, and it is the end vent. From time to time, the batteries will need to be topped up with distilled water. These are standard truck batteries. Using the correct personal protective equipment, vacuum off the cover to get any debris that might have fallen in off. Simply pop up the cover, following normal battery procedures. Pop up the cover and top them up with distilled water only. It can have no minerals in it. This is anticipated to be less than several times per year, depending on temperatures. To remove and reinstall batteries, it's important to use short tools on batteries so they don't short out terminals. There has been ample room left behind each battery and on the front side in order to lay the cables down for service. When removing a battery or multiple batteries, simply undo the cable and lay it down in the track. Repeat that for every battery in the chain and disconnect all the negatives and lay them in the tray. Do the same thing for all the positives. Remove the terminals, the battery cables, lay them down in the tray, each one from the battery bolt itself. There's no need to disconnect the main tying legs. Once the batteries are disconnected, simply remove the batteries and replace them. Inside the battery box, procedure for doing so has been posted. Normally the system control panel should look like this. The arrows on each of the menu positions are action items. You press to disable the inverter. Now it's saying press it to enable the inverter. There's the self-test of the lights. Pressing function will always bring you back to the home page. Home page simply shows the status of the system. Right now the batteries are fully charged. They're charging from solar presently, so the voltage input is 12.9, so they're receiving current in. We're drawing current out at 3 amps. The batteries are at 55 Fahrenheit. The inverter is supplying the power directly. The generator is not supplying any direct power to the loads. Upon the generator starting, the amps will go positive because the inverter charger is pushing the current into the batteries, and the mode for the batteries will show power, not inverter. So the power is coming directly from the generator at that point to the loads in the load panel. The load is also displayed for the amperage draw and the voltage out. When the generator kicks in, it will show the AC input, how much amps are drawn into the inverter for use to charge the batteries. So to be clear, the inverter is a double duty device. It's an inverter and a charger as well. The normal position is inverter enabled, charger enabled. Shore power, short form is SHR, is simply selecting the size of power of the supply of 120 volt, which will charge the batteries. The generator is limited to 20 amps, so we set the power supply as a 20 amp power supply. Automatic generator switch, or automatic generator start, should be left in auto. In this page, it shows auto, not to change to auto. This is manual off. This is manual run of the generator. Stop the generator, simply press after auto, and you will note that if we go to the generator phase, the generator is now cooling down. It's in automatic, going to an off state, but there's been no automatic triggers to turn it on. Automatic triggers for normal operating of the solar system. All the disconnect switches should be in the on position. To enable the solar system from a dry start, first turn on the main service disconnect, connecting the batteries to the solar controllers. This will enable the solar controllers to wake up and recognize the panels. Once the panels are hooked up, simply turn on service disconnect 1 and 2 and 3. And in a moment, the panels will go from showing no amps output to showing amperage output.